What if I told you that you only need a pawn to destroy Caro-Kann defense? You won't believe me. Watch this formula in 3, 2, 1. Oops, not like that. Let's flip the board first. Caro can start with e4, then c6, then commonly respond e4, d5. Then the next common move here is e5, and pawn takes d5. But that's so common, let's go with the rare one with a 53% winning percentage. But this time we gonna go with pawn f3, so-called fantasy variation. This move is simple, you just to maintain your center with an idea. So if the attacks it, just defend it. If your opponent doesn't take, well, you have a beautiful center control. And opponent move pawn e5, that attacks your pawn and open for queen to check and threat your pawn. We gonna stop this using knight to f3, attacking the pawn and defending h4 for the black's queen threat. What do you think he's thinking right now?
Attaboy! Yes, that sound is the sound of you beating your opponent's
If your opponent take the pawn, don't take with your horsey. Instead play with bishop to c4. And your pieces is ready to develop. Most common move is knight f6, then you castle for better position. If he moves bishop to c5 to defend his pawn, then it's a biggest mistake. He fall for the trap, he thinks it's good because of pin and surprise attack of pawn, but it's not. Because we can counter it easily with knight to g5 attacking the pawn f7 pawn. This is what happened next. See, it's already losing for black. So, let's go back to this position. What if the opponent doesn't move bishop c5? Instead he moved bishop e7 to defend the knight of possible pin. But still it doesn't change the thing. You still go on g5 with all the same ideas, crushing this pawn, and after that, black cattles to still utilize the same tactics but slightly different one. Same concept, you still trade on f7 and the king takes it. And after that you don't need to these tactics with queen h5 because it's useless, but you can simply play pawn e5 because of the pin. Therefore you win material and still losing for black. What if your opponent is smarter than you and don't fall for those traps? Can you still handle it? So, let's continue. Let's go back again in this position. Another common move for black here, that is also a best move, is bishop to g4, which can maintain the pressure. Black still pins this, and pawn potentially threat. In that case, we still gotta move the bishop to c4, still on this pawn f7. At this point, the best move for black is knight d7. Then we respond with pawn to c3, just to protect the center. If black goes knight f6, which it feels like a very good move, but that's actually a bad move. Besides defending this pawn, it is also opened up for queen to b3. We can create a double attack with f7 pawn and b7 pawn, and that's a problem for black. We can also jump the knight to g5 to add another pressure for black. It is already clear, the black is on trouble. In order to defend the f7 pawn, black need to move queen to e7, and then you can simply grab this pawn, and it's very complicated for black. You're 2 pawns up and it's clearly winning. And if black tries to take d for trying to have some counterattack, and then it doesn't matter, you can just move your bishop to f4. After this, black can still counter by capturing pawn on b2. And now we can have a brilliant move, queen to c8, check. The only way to defend is queen to d8, then another brilliant move again, sacrifice bishop on taking f7 pawn, and easily takes the black queen. Already losing for black. Let's go back again in this position. Another choice to move for black is to trade pawn on e4. And after that they attack in the center using knight. It is actually a bad move for black as you can only suit a pawn to attack and control the center file. And the knight goes away, and then attack with pawn to c4, the knight is threat and it needs to go back. And it's the time for you to develop. You definitely control the board or the center file. Black's knight is completely misplaced and only one square left, the d7 file, but it is also awkward to put your knight that square. We can say that you're almost winning already. Let's say, black move bishop to f5 trying at least to have a counterattack. We can just trade it off, with bishop d3, and after that, black move pawn to e7 to have a space for castling and also to develop. But still, you have advantage in position. You can just develop black bishop to f4 before rook to go in the center file. And you're definitely controlling the game, and black is hard to develop its pieces. You're ready to attack the king's side. And if you want to end it directly, you can just go with knight e4, and black try to defend the possible attack. Let's say knight to d7, and then you go on knight g5, go with simple checkmate idea, and it's hard to stop it anyway. They gonna play g6, to block your queen, but you go your queen to e4 ready to go on h4 to attack and deliver a checkmate.